In this video, I interview Sean from Missouri, and he has had several Bigfoot experiences. He recently reached out to me and shared a video of a possible Bigfoot hollering far off in the distance. Although you can't see anything in the video, the sounds are very unusual and unlike any animal I have ever heard here in Missouri. Many people say things like, well, if you saw or heard such a thing, why didn't you pull out your cell phone and record it? Well, in this case, Sean was able to act fast and record the vocalization. I decided to follow up with Sean and check out the area where he captured the vocalization and had several experiences prior to the recording. I gather all my gear and head down south to visit Sean's property in hopes of gathering more information about the local Bigfoot.
March 5th. I don't know if you can hear that. It's March 5th, 2020. Something has got these dogs barking. I don't know if you could hear that howl or yell. Clicked the recording on as fast as I could. Earlier in this video, when I tried to capture the sound, it was a lot closer. Appears as though it's moving away. Well, like I said, it's moving away. I don't even know if this phone's picking it up. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording here.
Alright, I got Sean out here, and he recently sent in a video with some Sasquatch vocalizations, or possible vocalizations, and he invited me out to his property, and we're out here right now. And yeah, Sean, if you would, could you tell me about your experiences and possible Bigfoot encounters?
Yeah, so basically what happened, I guess it was about 2019. I purchased property down around the Jefferson County, Washington County area, down around the Big River. That's where a lot of the activity initially started for me, in the cabin down there. There was initially little small things that I didn't pick up on, such as there was a bird that had a nest near the cabin, and or actually on the light of the cabin. And several evenings I'd be sitting out there, and she would come up, and she had a real faint whistle. She'd kind of real light. So I would whistle back to her, and I would communicate back and forth with her. And little did I know, several weeks later, I'd be out there relaxing. I was barbecuing, much like I always do, and it was evening. It had already gotten dark, and I was sitting out there, and I had noticed that I heard that bird whistling. And I thought, well, that was weird, and I didn't think much about it, but since she whistled, I whistled. I responded because she whistled. Because that was our MO. She would fly up, she would whistle, and then I would hear her, and I would locate her, and I would whistle back to her. Well, this particular evening, I was out there, and I heard the whistle. So I whistled back to her, and I started looking around. And it didn't occur to me at the time, and it didn't occur to me actually till the next day. I was driving home, and I called a buddy of mine, and I was telling him about the experience. I said, yeah, I was out there last night, and I was before I went to sleep, I was sitting outside and sitting around the campfire, and I kept noticing that there was a whistle, and I thought it was the bird that was always coming to visit me. So I whistled back, and this went back and forth for probably 10-15 minutes. I'd hear a little faint whistle, and I'd whistle, hear another little faint whistle, and I'd whistle back. And I didn't really much think about it, like I said, till the following day. And I called my buddy on the phone, and I told him what was going on. And he said, "You do realize that birds don't whistle at night?" And I had that, oh my moment, like, oh, you're right, kind of thing. I was like, wow, because that's when the wheels started turning. I'm like, so then what was whistling? Why was I getting a response when it was dark outside? And that's when I kind of come to the realization that there was something else going on. Something was communicating with me, and I was communicating back, and I didn't even realize it. I merely thought it was a bird, and my buddy told me, he says, "Sean, birds don't whistle at night." And you could have knocked me over with a feather. It literally stunned me that much that I really had to process it for a couple of days, that I was actually communicating with something else, and it wasn't a bird.
So you feel like the Sasquatch were observing you when you were messing around with the nest and checking out the birds.
And I didn't realize it at the time that I had interactions throughout the day, and most of the time it was just innocent. It was a bird flying up, and I would acknowledge that she was there. She would whistle, and I would whistle back. But like you said, they had to be there close enough for them to realize that that's what I was doing. And then they did it later as a form of communication to me, and it never registered until my buddy said something. And then I was like, oh wow, I was literally communicating with something other than a bird. Which I merely thought that's all. It was innocent. I thought it was a bird. But
I recently had something like that happen. I was close to one of my areas, and it was nighttime. Of course, I'm not going to go into the woods. I'm at the edge of the yard, and I think I did a few knocks or a whoop, just trying to get something to happen. And as I was walking away, I heard, and I was like, "Oh, it's a bird." But it's around 10 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah. See?
So that was my thought too. Wait a minute, birds don't whistle at night. So it doesn't sound that significant to somebody that doesn't understand Bigfoot activity. But when you're out there in these areas and you experience this type of stuff, it hits you harder.
Yeah, and you don't realize it. Like me, I didn't realize it till the next day.
Yeah.
And then I really had to sit there, and I had to process this I know I did it for probably 5 to 8, maybe 10 days, and I finally come to the resolve that I was communicating more than likely with Sasquatch. That's the only thing I could pin it to.
Did you think somebody was spying on you initially?
I had wondered. That process went through my mind, but the thing that told me that wasn't the case was, first and foremost, how did it know to be so quiet? How did it know to make that whistle that light? Because when I communicated with this bird, it was to the sense of, it was that low. And they were whistling that low to me. So, as to make me believe that it was the bird. And that's exactly what it sounded like. But like I said, it was 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, But those kind of things happen. And then, through the process of being out there over time, that summer, I had taken and I wasn't working. I was kind of in between jobs at the time. And I was taking a lot of time off and going to the country, because that's what I bought the property for, was to relax and to kind of recharge and, just be one with nature again, because that's what I did as a young boy, and I found a lot of comfort in doing that, and I still do. So the other occurrence took place, I guess it was more near the fall time, and I'd had a fire outside, and I was staying the night. I had my cot, I had my sleeping bag, I had everything inside the cabin to stay the night, and I had turned in for the evening, And it was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I'd fallen asleep, and I was awoke the first time that I ever remember hearing or having anything going on around me. It was about 1:30 in the morning, maybe 2 o'clock. I wake up. Did you hear that too?
What are those voices?
Those were voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's strange.
It didn't sound like it was too far. If it wasn't for all this
Rain coming off. Yeah, well, not the rain, but the snow melt off the roof.
it's kind of like what you were describing.
Yeah, that's really weird. I was wondering if you picked up on that. I hope that camera picks up. Yeah.
Who did it?
But anyway, I'd fallen asleep that night, like I said, and I was woke about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And what initially got my attention was I could tell there was something moving outside the cabin. And I didn't quite know what it was. And this is truly the first experience that I ever had. And it was at that cabin in Jefferson County. And I remember hearing a thump. And that's what woke me. And as you know how you come out of that sleep state, I was starting to realize that I was hearing more than one. And then that's when I did wake up. And I literally lifted my head off the pillow and I started listening and trying to pay attention to what I was actually hearing. And I could hear actual footfall. And it was bipedal. You could tell. It was like, you know, and then you'd hear it again. And naturally, you know, there's no squirrels out at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you don't normally hear anything because it's normally dead quiet out there. So I'm hearing footfall, and then I start feeling it, almost like I can feel it through the floor of the cabin. And that's what really got my attention. And I didn't go back to sleep that night. I never was able to go back to sleep. I had a long ride home that day. It was rough. That next morning. I had a hard time staying awake because I didn't get enough sleep. But I kind of dismissed it. I was like, well, that's weird. There was, you know, I thought once again that maybe there was somebody trespassing. Someone was around the cabin. You know, I went outside. I looked around. I didn't see anything. Nothing felt strange or anything. I tried to go back in and go to sleep. I couldn't. And finally, you know, the sun started coming up about, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. And I was like, well, I better pack my stuff up, get everything rounded up, and head back to the house. Well, through the rest of that fall, I had been out there, like I said, because I was in between jobs. And I'd been out there 2 or 3 times since that actual occurrence. And I keep catching something off here to my left. I don't know what that is. But I went out there and went camping and was going to stay the night again. And same thing. The only difference this time is it was more into late October, early November time frame. It was cold. And I remember it being about 30 degrees that night. And I'd had a fire, and I'd been out, you know, near the fire most of the evening, and finally turned in. And this night, I happened to wake up, and that was the time that I told you about, that I felt like something hit the cabin. Something had moved the corner of the cabin. I mean, that's what woke me. I felt the cabin shake. And as I came up, and I realized, and I was waking up, that I had realized that I did hear something. And something had obviously slapped the side of the cabin. That got me out of bed. I jumped to my feet, ran to the door, and this time I even went around the cabin. I walked the whole outside of the cabin, and I was just trying to figure out what was going on, because nothing was making sense, you know. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? Why am I getting this every time that I fall asleep, you know? But that night I was able to go back to sleep. Luckily, I fell asleep, you know. I woke up in the morning, no big deal. And I'd been out there, like I said, after that time frame, probably 2 other times going up towards Christmas. Around Thanksgiving I was out there, nothing. And a week or two before Christmas, I was out. Nothing happened. I didn't get any interaction whatsoever. Didn't even think about it, to be quite honest with you. I was out there that following spring, and that's in March when I got the vocalizations that I recorded. And that night, I didn't get woke up. I never heard nothing. I slept the whole night through. Woke up the following morning and was making eggs and bacon out on the campfire. And had been out there for the better part of an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, I'd been out there since probably 6:30 in the morning. And at this time, it was 8 o'clock-ish. And I was eating breakfast and had cleaned up to a certain extent. I was washing dishes and cleaning my mess up and everything. And kind of relaxing and enjoying my breakfast, you know, because I just got done and I had made another cup of coffee. And that's when the vocalization started. And I couldn't get to the phone fast enough. I heard it and I was like, that's what that is. I know that's a Sasquatch. I know that's what that is. Because once you hear it, it's so apparent that there's something with a very large lung capacity that's doing that. So I knew, as soon as it happened, that I had to get to my cell phone. So I ran from the chair into the cabin. I'm looking everywhere. I'm frantic. I'm throwing my bedding and everything off. God, I'm looking for this cell phone. And it dawns on me that it's like, oh, it's in the truck. It's charging. Run back out of the cabin, into the truck, open the truck up, take it off the charging cable, and I run towards the noise, you know, or towards the howling. And I get about halfway down the driveway. You were there this morning with me. I got right there in the circle drive. And I was standing there and I was fumbling because I was shaking visibly. I couldn't hardly keep it together, but I got it to where I could finally hit the record button, and the record button started working, and I knew it did because I started seeing the seconds count. And I just tried to get quiet so that I could pick everything up. And I just stood there because that's all I knew to do, you know, is just stand there and listen and hope that the phone was picking it up, that it was loud enough. I felt it was loud enough because it was giving me the chills the whole time I was standing there. And as I stood there, I listened to it move across the top of that ridge, like I told you, down along the creek there. I listened to it just move off in the distance. And it did this for, I bet, 10 minutes. It went on, and it just kept going and going. When I wish I could have gotten it recorded as soon as it started, because it was really, I would put it quarter mile to half a mile from me, easy.
What do you think the Sasquatch was hollering about?
You know, that to this day intrigues me. I have no clue. I don't know why it would have done that at 9 o'clock in the morning. It just floored me that there was something making that much noise that early in the morning. And that was the first thing I thought, is like, there's got to be other people hearing this besides me. I've got neighbors. There's neighbors, I don't know, you've seen them, maybe 5-10 acres away. The guy down the way over across the road there was maybe 3 acres away. There's another house up on the hill that I believe they were on that, it's a friend of mine's property. He's got 50 acres. He's got a farmhouse up on that hill. He's within, I don't know, probably within 25 acres, you know, 30 acres of me across the creek and up the hill, you know. Straight up to the south and east here is where it was the voice, or the howl was coming from. And I think he was following along this creek's ridge, which is up there, and it runs a long way. I'm talking 4 or 5 miles in that direction to the south and southeast. But we can come up here real quick and take a look at the creek area.
Have you looked on a map to see what's out that way? Maybe it's like
I have
conservation
not, but I know my a neighbor of mine right here that lives up on the hill has 50 acres up there, and they own a big part of this creek as part of their 50 acres. So I'm guessing they were, they were up on that hillside walking that creek. That's what it sounded like. Yeah. And I think it was on his property. I'm almost positive. They run this whole creek bed down through here, I do believe, all through here. It's all bedrock with some larger rock mixed in. And in the summertime, you know, with the, because it runs year round, but I think in the springtime and early summer, this thing, it really gets to rolling, because it'll have trees brought down. You can see some trees late. Look at the size of that crane, the cabin. But yeah, it was an interesting turn of events for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people want to make fun of the, like Bobo from Finding Bigfoot, but that was one of the calls he made.
Yeah, that's, it was so loud. I don't think that, because I was using this cell phone, I don't think this cell phone did it justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was very, very loud. It got my attention immediately. It startled me so bad that I was shaking and I couldn't control my, emotions. It was too much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a nice little creek.
Oh, it's a beautiful creek. But yeah, I come down here all the time. And you can turn up that way and span that way and look how pretty it is. But that's the direction that the vocalization is coming from. It was off to the, what would that be, our southeast?
Yeah.
Because that's the east, west. So yeah, it was coming from the southeast and it was moving to the south. As it went away from me, I could tell it was getting further and further down, as opposed to, you know, coming towards me. But when it first started, I would guess he was less than a half a mile from me. It was very loud.
So he wasn't too far off.
He was not too far off at all.
Yeah.
No.
Makes you wish you had some better equipment or something.
Oh sure, yeah. I mean, it just caught me by, it caught me by such surprise. I was like, where's my cell phone? I'm running all over the place. I'm trying to get inside the cabin and I'm like, where's it at? Where's it at? And then it hit me like a flash. I was like, hey dummy, it's in your truck. So I run back to the truck, grab it and unplug it and turn the record button on. And then I wanted to sit there so that, because I was walking on the gravel road and I didn't want to make too much noise while I was, you know, trying to get the mic or get the record button and everything pushed, because I'm technologically challenged, so to speak. I'm trying to figure it all out. But once I got it going, I knew it was recording because I could see the seconds ticking away. So, but yeah, I just sat here and listened to it until it, I'm guessing, probably got on average of 4 or 5 miles away. I could barely hear it, but the dogs were still going crazy all around here. They've got some big dogs right here. And the folks up the hill have Great Pyrenees. And there's quite a few larger dogs, you know, down that way. But yeah, this creek never dries up. It runs on this sandstone year round.
Yeah.
You know, it's gorgeous. It's bedrock, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of rare to see a creek that's solid bedrock.
Right, and it's that way all the way through here, and it runs all the way to the big river. You know, that's where this goes. It dumps in. This dumps into the big river, and then the big river dumps into the Merrimack. Yep.
Does this have any fish?
It does, but they're very small. I've seen small fish in here further south, but they weren't anything of any significance. You know, they were small, like little perch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I get to the deep pools.
Yeah, I'm guessing that if you get to the deeper pools, you'd probably find some, you know, some largemouth, possibly some bluegill, and, you know, maybe a smallmouth here and there.
So after reviewing the cell phone footage, how much louder was it actually hearing it with your ears compared to the cell phone video?
It didn't do it justice. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, man, I need to send this somewhere. The first guy I really thought about, I'll be honest with you, Miguel, was that guy off YouTube, Thinker Thunker. I almost reached out to him and sent him the video first.
Yeah.
And but the first person I did actually reach out to was I think his name's Scott Carpenter, and what is it, Into the 400. I reached out to him and sent the material to him, and he reviewed it and he listened to it and he's like, oh, that is really good footage. And even when I sent you the video, and that's what I had asked of you when I sent the video to you, was, hey, can you at least try to bring the audio out. And I was so glad to see that when you did, you allowed it to play for the first 5 minutes as it was. And then you're like, hey, let's listen to it again. And that really gave resonance to me of what I was actually listening to. It still didn't equate to actually being there, but it's really close. You know, it really gave me that sense like, okay, now you can hear it. Before you really had to listen and you had to have headphones on, you know, or not headphones, but earpieces in to hear it real well. You made it to where it was like, you know, next door.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's literally, it's in your face. But it still had nothing to do with what it actually sounded like that day. It was so... much volume coming from that being. It was just, I mean, it like shook in your chest. When it first started, I mean, I almost fell running to the cabin because I was so shook by what I was literally hearing, you know, because I knew what it was immediately. I was like, oh my. And I jump up, and I don't know if it was lightheadedness or what it was, but I felt wobbly getting to the cabin. And then once I got in the cabin, I kind of gathered myself a little bit, but I'm still frantic looking for the phone, you know.
It's the adrenaline.
Oh, the adrenaline was off the charts. I mean, like nothing I've ever experienced. I mean, I've played sports for years, and I've had many great moments, you know, throughout my life. I've been in the Air Force. I've been in combat situations. Nothing compared to what I felt that day. It was just exhilarating. It was like it was so loud and so pronounced and so raw. You know what I mean? That I mean, you could literally feel it. I really wish I would have had the cell phone that I could have clicked it on right then. You know, because the sound that animal was making was just immense. I mean, and you know, I don't know how anybody else could not have heard that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how all the neighbors weren't talking, saying, "Did you hear that morning?"
Did you ever go and ask the neighbors?
I talked to that one neighbor that lived up on the hill, and I had asked Eric about it, but he had stated, he said, "I never heard nothing." And I'm sitting here scratching my head like, how can you not hear that? How can you live out here? You know, I just have property there that I visit. He lives there. You know, how do you not hear that? You know, and I know it was on his property because it was coming in from that general direction to the southeast. You know, I know that he was on his property. The only way you couldn't have heard it, I guess, is if you were sleeping.
Right.
You know?
Or in the basement or something.
Who knows? I don't know what he was doing that morning, you know?
What do you think the call meant? Do you think he was trying to find a mate? Do you think possibly he lost a loved one?
That's almost what it sounded like. It almost sounded like either it was a warning or it was something that it was mourning.
Yeah.
It was almost mournful.
Yeah,
when it started,
there's emotion to it.
There was emotion, and you could tell that it was changing its octave level, and I don't know if that was something that it could control. Almost like an emotional experience, like it was having an experience that it was having a hard time dealing with.
Yeah.
That's what it struck me as, is like it was like almost like it was crying. And it was wailing.
I thought about that too. Maybe it lost a loved one.
Lost a loved one, anything. I had no idea. All I know is that I had never heard anything that powerful in my entire life. It really shook me to my core.
Or he's looking for his group, and he's trying to get up on that hill.
To get, yeah, and that could have been it too,
Yeah.
because it was loud. I mean, it was just, it was, to be honest with you, it was obnoxiously loud.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that elephants can do the infrasound or communicate through mountain ranges and hear each other.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me at all, you know, with the abilities that, you know, have been claimed that these animals have the ability to do certain things. But, you know, my thing is like you had stated, why the verbalization? Why so loud? You know what I mean?
Yeah, around people. During the day.
And I mean, because it's populated. There's people in those hills. You know, there's every couple of acres, 10, 15, 25, sometimes up to 50 or 100 acres, there's other people. I mean, it's remote, but it's not like there's nobody living there, you know?
Yeah, and that spring-fed creek, does it go up in the direction where the vocalizations came from?
Right. And that's why I think, you know, and we had discussed this before, they definitely travel a waterway quite often, if not pretty much strictly, because he was on top of that ridge over the top of that creek. And that creek it runs year round, and it's always got water in it, you know. So it's a great place to navigate and to move through without being seen, because it's low, you know.
Do you know the exact date of when it occurred?
I want to say it was like March 5th or something like that, 2020.
So in the springtime.
It was in the springtime.
So is that why you were excited to get back out there?
Yeah, because it was one of the first times I could get in without snow and ice being on the road, because I don't have a four-wheel drive. And there was nothing on the ground, so I knew I could get into the cabin. I hadn't been there in several months because of that reason. You know, they try to clear the road, but it's one of those things that's so far out in the county, I don't know that they get to it enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when they do, it's one of those things that one day you realize, oh, all the snow's off the road, you know, kind of thing. But I think it usually sits there for, you know, a week or two, because they probably clear the major highways, because I think 44 and 55 is right through that area. So they probably concentrate more on taking care of those highways and getting that cleared off before they do the road that I have property off of.
So what cued you into thinking that it was possibly a Sasquatch?
Because of what had been taking place.
Okay.
You know, I had come to the resolve earlier in that previous year that what was taking place was Sasquatch. And the only reason I say that is because, like I told you, I can't run on the ground heavy enough to make movement. I don't care if I jump off this porch. If you're inside the cabin here, you're probably not even going to know that I jumped off the porch. And this is a large enough animal that it is physically shaking the ground around the cabin when it's moving. There's nothing out there. There's no, the neighbors have a horse, but the horse has never been out that I know of.
Well, as far as the vocalization that you heard, what made you think that it was Bigfoot, or did you do some research afterwards and say, you know, that's it, when you found something that sounded similar? The
first time I'd ever heard that noise was from that, I can't remember what YouTube channel it was, but it was in the, I want to say out in the Sierra Nevadas.
Yeah.
I had heard it on a YouTube, somebody's channel, something very similar to a large, loud, but the one that I heard sounded much more distant and a lot deeper in the woods. Yeah. You know, where these folks were at, they were at a campground and they were catching the vocalization on a cell phone as well, but you could tell it was probably 8 to 10 miles in. It was real distant, you know.
When I heard that, I was excited because I've heard those same vocalizations on YouTube from around Canada and maybe the Sierra area. And I know for sure that there's one from Ohio, and they call it the Ohio Yells or something like that.
Well, I've never heard that one.
Yeah, and it sounds just like you're recording. So when I heard that in Missouri, I was like, yes, they do that here. You know? They do the same things, you know. That got me excited because, you know, sometimes Sasquatch in one area are a little bit different than the Sasquatch in a completely different area.
Yeah, it's just a different group, you know. They all do different things, I'm sure. I mean, that's like the difference between you and me, you know, the way you were raised from the way I was raised.
Yeah.
They have family units too that, you know, that are in different parts of the country. I'm sure that they have different things that they do. But, you know, I almost knew it immediately because it was so loud. Cats don't make that loud of a noise. Bears don't make that loud of a noise. Nothing that I've ever experienced in my life has ever made that much noise. And the other occurrences that have taken place down there they're not extreme, other than, like I told you, I walked around the property and I started looking for sign, and that's when I had realized that tree was bent over in half and stuck in the ground. That was interesting. That took place between the two, from what was taking place that September-October time frame. Shortly thereafter is when I started walking the property and really started paying attention to the fact that there may be something else going on. And that's when I tried to walk through the trees I told you, and I was like, man, why can't I get through here? And I kept trying to fight through, and I thought it was just brush. And once I got to the roadway and I looked back, I realized it was a tree that had been, what would you say, about maybe 3-4 inches around, grabbed and stuck into the ground, and I had tried to walk through all of its fresh green growth as it had been twisted over the top. So, and that right there told me for sure that there was something there, that you know, that there was more to what it validated it more than anything for me, that there was something around.
And at this point, did you even know that Bigfoot existed in Missouri?
No.
Or in the Midwest at all?
No. Matter of fact, I thought it was something basically that took place out in the Pacific Northwest. You know, I didn't think, and it never occurred to me that there was, and you know, as a child, I ran the woods all the time. I never had anything remotely close happen in the state of Illinois when I lived there when I was younger, or in the state of Missouri as I got older, you know, before I went off to the Air Force. None of these, I've never had any occurrences until much later in life, you know, within the last 3 years. And, but what's taken place out here where we're currently at is another property that I purchased in the past year, this being in Macoupin County, and this cabin being located in Macoupin County. The only thing that I ever had take place here, like we had discussed, was what happened with my wife the first time that she had come here. I wanted to show her the property, show her the cabin, because we were making an investment, you know, for our future. And so I brought her out here to, you know, to show her the new property and everything. And we were right down there, as a matter of fact, just off the porch here. And we were starting to cook, starting to relax, and get the campfire going and get the barbecue grill going and everything. And it was probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. It was the sun was going down, but we were going to leave before then. We were just going to eat some dinner, drink a beer or two, you know, and get back to Illinois. And I had started the fire and was getting everything ready. She was sitting in the easy chair, what I call her easy chair, because it's one of those nice fold-out ones that rock, you know. She was just sitting there rocking away. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, on I guess this is the north side of the cabin, we hear a large crashing noise. Almost like something was getting ready to come plowing through the woods back over here. And she almost jumped out of her seat, and I just said, sit still, don't move. And I was shocked, and I was shook, and I was a little scared, because I'd never heard anything like that. And I was like, okay, well, minus I need to go back and tell that story about my mom. I forgot about that in Jefferson County when we were at the cabin, and they pushed a tree over behind the cabin. So let me circle back to that here in just a minute. But I'm going to finish this story. But we were sitting here, like I said, and I had the fire going. and they shoved a tree over right out here in front of the cabin, maybe 25 to 40 yards in front of the cabin. And it, like I said, it startled me. I had my pistol on me, because I normally do when we come out here. I always carry in the woods because I don't know what's out here. It's new property. I don't know if there's cats here. I've since learned that there are there are large cats out here, and there are bobcat, and a lot of turkeys, a lot of deer. But anyway, I was rattled, and I reached for my pistol, and I soon holstered it. I put it back away, and I walked around the edge of the cabin here, and I walked down fully expecting to see a Sasquatch. And I got around the front half of the cabin, and I didn't see anything. And I was a little put off by it. I'm like, where's this animal at? I know he's here. You can't make that much noise and disappear that fast. I mean, we're talking from me walking here to over there, from me initially being startled by it, maybe 5 to 10 seconds before I took my path around the side of the cabin to see what was up there, and nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know, and I'm just like, where did he go? Where's he at? He's got to be within eye shot. So I'm scanning, and I mean I'm scanning. I mean I'm just looking to see any foot movement through the bottom of the canopy, anything. I never seen nothing. I never heard nothing other than him pushing the tree over. It, her, I don't know. Something pushing the tree over. And I come back around this side. She goes, did you see anything? No. I said, I don't know how it disappeared, you know? So she gets up and she walks off this side of the cabin, and she's looking off that direction. And I'm over here still looking out through here, trying to see if we see anything. Never nothing. Not a peep. No footfall, not a twig break, nothing. Just absolute silence. And it stayed that way pretty much the whole time that we sat here and ate. We drank a couple of beers, and she got uncomfortable. She says, I don't want to be here at dark. I said, neither do I. Let's go. So we packed everything up and we left and went home. And let me circle back, like I said, to that occurrence in Jefferson County. I went down there one day, and my mom hadn't been down to that property. So she wanted to go with me. And I was like, hey, yeah, come on, let's go down there. You'll enjoy it. So we rolled down there, with the intent of doing just as I always do, to take the country in, relax a little bit, cook a little food, and drink a beer or two with my mom. And we get down there, and it was later in the afternoon. We got down there, it was about 4:30, and it was near the fall time. I remember it was actually the end of summer. It was still pretty green, and we had been out there, or we had the property, I guess, just over a year, and it was the following year. So we went down there, and it's like I said, it was the first time she had been down there, and we're cooking, drinking a beer. We're on that little porch you seen on the other cabin. It's like a 6-foot porch. It's a small little porch. And we're sitting there, and we're talking about Sasquatch. And out of nowhere, like directly behind the cabin, once again, same scenario, almost like clockwork, but further back. Like I said, 60 to 80 yards, maybe even on the other neighbor's property, directly behind the cabin there in Jefferson County. Tree comes crashing down, and it's loud, it's big, and it's a big tree, and you can tell it's big because it made a lot more noise than it did here. And that's the first time my mom had been on that property, and she about ran to the truck. I said, sit still, Mom, sit still, don't move. And she said, oh my God, honey. She says, what was that? I said, I can only assume that it was a Sasquatch. I said, I'm just going to be upfront and honest. I said, that's the only thing I can imagine that could do that. It had started raining. There was no wind though. It was just like a slow drizzle, you know. And all of a sudden the tree come down, you know. And I mean, it freaked us out. She didn't want to stay. I mean, it didn't even get dark. And she's like, no, honey, we need to get going. Mm-hmm. I said, well, come on. I said, let's walk down here and take a look. And she's like, no. I said, what are you, chicken? She goes, yes. Yes, I am. Yeah. So I knew she was scared. And I was shook by it, but I wasn't per se scared. But it got my attention. And we left shortly thereafter. But that took place there, and I totally forgot about that. And I'd even forgot about the tree push over here until the wife said something about 6 months ago. She goes, you mean tell me you forgot about that? I said, yeah, I actually did. I said, I totally forgot that had taken place, because there's so much stuff that is going on that it kind of consumes your whole thought process. Everything to me kind of, at this point, kind of rolls together. You know what I mean? I have a hard time differentiating times and things of that nature now, because it happens so frequently. That I heard it too.
I thought I heard it like a wood knock.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on. But yeah, what's been taking place out here and what I really want to talk about is I had come down here late last year. It was in the fall time, and I had come down to relax for the evening and to do as I normally always do, and it's to have a fire, have a campfire, eat some food. My plan that day was to actually cut some firewood, and it got too dark too quick on me, and I was here, and it was 7:30 in the afternoon. It was getting dark. Like I said, it was fall time, so we started losing light a lot earlier, and I hadn't planned well enough. I really hadn't. Mm-hmm. But I had full intention, like I told you, to stay the night. I was staying the night that night, and I did, but not without incident. I'd got done eating. I was sitting up here in the chair that Miguel's sitting in, and I was looking out in that direction. And I had ate some Fritos and drank a couple of beers, and it was dark. I mean, you couldn't see in the woods anymore. It was already dark. So I figured it was between 7:30 and 7:45. Well, it's not uncommon around here in the evening, much like any other place when you're in the woods, or it's happened to me most of my life. You'll hear coyotes sound off sometime in the evening, like they're, gathering the hunting party. So off in the distance, probably, I don't know, half a mile or so, I can hear coyotes starting to make a lot of noise. They're starting to yip and howl, and sounds like there's probably 5 to 10 of them. I don't know. It sounded like there's a lot of them. And then I hear something kind of closer to me, and I thought it was a coyote too, and it had barked, and then it had started to howl. And as it howled, it ended with the sound, and I don't even want to try to imitate a coyote because I can't, but it was yipping, and then it went to the whoo, and at the end of it howling, like the rest of the coyotes, it made that wah, and it was so loud that he sounded like he was literally maybe 100 yards from me, right off over here in this area. It just reverberated through me. It shook me.
So it was really loud?
It was, and he was right here. He was within 100 yards of me, I know. He was close.
So you got coyotes going off, then dogs going off?
Well, the dogs never did go off until the coyotes started. Then the dogs started barking. But the coyotes kept howling, and then the Sasquatch started howling like he was a coyote, but I could tell it was different. It had more depth to it, more tone. Mm. And then it went into a howl, and then I was like, oh no, that is a coyote. But after the end of its howl, it did that wah. And I have never, ever in my life heard anything even remotely close to that. And I mean, it shook me. It shakes me now to even talk about it. It terrified me because it was right here. It was so close. And I sat here for like I told you, probably 2 to 5 minutes. It felt like an eternity. It really did. But I kept going through my mind, are you going to stay or are you going to go? I had that whole fight or flight thing going on, and I was struggling with it. Am I running for the fear of my life kind of thing, or am I going to sit here and I'm going to, like I always told myself, have an interaction? Am I going to be able to do this kind of thing? I kept having this process go through my head. Stay here, stay here, stay here. But I had that feeling of such terror and fright that I couldn't control it. Finally, I just jumped up. I ran back in the cabin. I grabbed everything out of that room that I had, all my everything. I had my sleeping bag, my cot, my chair, all my coolers, everything. Because I was staying the night. You know, I was planning on cooking in the morning, the whole 9 yards. And I couldn't get a hold of it fast enough. I was grabbing it out of the cabin, running down the stairs, throwing it in the truck, which was parked around the side over here. And I made 2 or 3 trips back and forth, grabbing as much as I could, and I was physically throwing stuff into the truck. I got in the truck, fired it up, backed it up, and I flew out of here. I mean, and you know, I'm not afraid to say it, I was terrified. To me, I felt like I was almost running for my life. It was that scary of an event for me. You know, it shook me. So I take off, and I get up the road probably, 3-4 miles. And I use my cell phone because I know I'm on high enough ground to get a connection. And I call my wife. And this had happened one other time down in Jefferson County, that I had gotten myself so worked up that I left the property. Mm-hmm. And here I was doing it again, you know. And that's another story too. I totally forgot about that incident. But anyway, because that happened to me down in Jefferson County. I got ran off that property one night too. I told you that one night when I was talking to you on the phone, mm-hmm. that I had those owls coming towards me through the woods.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about it.
They, that was in Jefferson County, and that evening I was sitting there, same thing. It was late at night, and I had the fire going, and I kept hearing these hoot owls. They kept sounding off. I didn't think anything about it because I'd heard them before, you know. But this was different. And it was like they were moving, like they were flying, like they were coming towards me. And the more I realized that really didn't sound like a hoot owl. You know, it was making the noise, but it had more tone, more volume and more depth to it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, and I think they were actually on the property at that time. They were close enough that I had that fight or flight thing go on just like I had here that evening. And I did. I picked everything up and I left. I didn't even put the fire out. I threw everything in my truck and drove away. And that's basically what happened here that evening, is I got so terrified and I couldn't control the emotion that I had to leave. I had to get away because I had that fight or flight, and I couldn't suppress it enough to tell myself to calm down. My heart was racing too much. I was getting almost like hyperventilated. The adrenaline was just, surging through me to the point where I finally just jumped and I just said, I'm out. I can't do this. And I just started grabbing stuff and throwing it in the truck, you know. Like I said, I ran up the road. I got about 4 miles away from here. I called the wife. And immediately, I don't know, I guess because she talks to me so much because of my other jobs and things of that nature, like when I'm on the phone, my pickup, you know, it's on Bluetooth and she can tell I'm driving. Mm-hmm. And the first question out of her mouth was, "Are you driving?" "Yes, I am." She goes, "Why?" Because she knew I was coming up here to stay the night. I said, "Because I got chased off my own property." I was a little reluctant to admit it, but I had to admit it. I said, "I'm going back into town." She goes, "What happened?" So I explained the story to her, what had taken place. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, well, are you coming home? Are you going to stay? I said, well, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do. So I went back into town. Like I told you, I got a cup of coffee. I got my my wits about me, so to speak, and I kind of contained myself, and I got good with the idea that no, I'm not going to be chased off my own property. I'm going to go back out there, and I'm going to stay the night. So I came back out here. It was about 10 o'clock, and I pulled up on my neighbor's property, and I sat up there like I told you, and I fell asleep in the truck for about, I don't know, till about 1:30 in the morning, for about 3.5 hours. And I woke up and I was freezing because it was cold, real cold. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to park on top of the hill by the cabin just up here behind us. And I'm going to sit there in that open field so that I can see if anything comes up on me. I don't know why, but the open field made me feel more comfortable so I could see around the truck. And like I said, I fell asleep till about 3 in the morning before I woke up shivering and I was cold. I started the truck to heat up again. Then at that point I decided to, come down here, and I was just going to make a night of it. I got all my stuff out of the truck that I'd thrown in the truck, brought it all back to the cabin, and set everything up and went back inside and laid down and fell asleep till about 6 o'clock in the morning. And nothing after that, nothing ever took place. Nothing. There was no other strange noises. I cooked out here all morning, and I packed all my stuff up and left that morning, without incident. Nothing else even happened. But those are some of the occurrences and some of the things that have taken place on this property. 2 major occurrences, one with the wife and the second one with him being right down here in the woods. And since then, I've walked the property several times. There's a lot of large timber. There's a creek down here that runs, like I told you, in the springtime, a lot of times, spring runoff. But it'll run into July, August, but then it does dry up. Yeah. But yeah, there's everything out here. Like I said, I've seen bobcat tracks. I've seen cougar. I've seen a lot of turkeys, and just a lot of other animals, raccoons and squirrels and everything else. But there are cats out here. I've never seen one, but there's been signs down around the creek, footprints and things like that. But I've never had any footprints anywhere. I've never found anything like that, Yeah. I don't look real hard because a lot of times I'm down here to enjoy myself, but I have had occurrences and strange things happening, from time to time. Like today, me and you have sat here and there's been several noises that we can't indicate, okay, what was that, what took place over there. So, but I don't know, we'll see. We'll take a walk, we'll bring everybody with us and we'll walk around for a little while and see what we can see.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think the Sasquatch are?
They're people.
You think it's a type of person?
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Now, do you mean like something bred with a human being and that's what we got, or?
It's definitely, I think that's something that's in our gene line. I think it, throughout time, over thousands of years, I think we have interbred. I think it has happened. Did you hear that?
Yeah, that one didn't sound like.
Yeah, that was weird though.
Yeah. So maybe you got some paranormal activity too.
Yeah, this is really strange. There's a lot. We've had a lot of stuff going on out here
It
today.
does sound like someone's walking around in there, but
I know.
Weird. But
But yeah, I think they're a people just like you and me. I really truly do.
So they're the real natives of the
I
land.
think so. I think even more so than the American Indian. That's a personal belief. I think they've been here for thousands and thousands of years. Probably anywhere between 15 to 25,000 years.
Yeah.
They've been on this planet for a long, long time. I think even before man. I really truly believe that. I don't know how that connects, you know what I mean? I don't know where that all took place, but I do believe that they have an intelligence level that's much higher than ours. You know, I think they have abilities that are far beyond us, and I've always felt that way. And the only reason I say that is because how can something that is as large as they have been, you know, they've been filmed, they've been seen, everybody knows it, for as large as of a person, animal, because we're all animals when you bring it all back down, as large as they are, how they move so swiftly through the forest, so quietly, is just, it baffles my mind how they're able to do that. That tells me you're dealing with something that is on a much higher level of intelligence to know that it needs to be that quiet. You know, obviously for its survival, you know, to eat and things of that nature, but you know, I mean, they're around us all the time and we have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Absolutely. So you bought this property, you've experienced some activity, and you possibly have recorded one of the best vocalizations in Missouri.
Yeah.
What is your goal now?
Basically just to exist with what I have. I mean, I don't, you know, that this is their property as much as it is mine. I have ownership and I have land rights, but in the grand scheme of things, this is their home. You know, this is just some place that I visit. You know, they live here, and I know that. And I just want to exist with them. I don't want to, you know, I don't want them harmed. I don't want any of that. I don't want people out here hunting them. I don't want none of that. My goal is to bring, much like to, for other people that get involved with this, they want other people to realize they're here. And it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. You know, you can make it what you want, but the simple fact is they were here before we were. You know, that's my personal belief. We are actually the visitor, and people need to bring that concept into the forefront of their, you know, their head, and get their head around the fact that this is theirs. We only visit. You know, we're only here, and they do have the right to everything. You know, we have none when it comes to that. And just for the record, we're not the apex predator out here. They are. So
with so many experiences, encounters that have been reported, why do you think the general public is so dumb towards the phenomenon?
Well, I don't think they're dumb. I think what it is there's a lot of media that doesn't want it to be known. I think the more people start to realize that they actually are here, they do exist, the more people are going to be like, you know what, I want to know it for myself. I want to know that it's real. I need no more convincing. I know they are. Like I told you, I haven't had a sighting. I haven't seen one, but I don't have to know that they're here. What took place out here and what has taken place on my other property tells me enough. You know, you don't hear a large bipedal animal running around your cabin just by happenstance. You know what I mean? That's a living animal that's creating that sound. And I know that. I'm smart enough to know that there's something out there. It's not a human being. Because you can go running across down there all you want. And, you know, I'm never going to feel the ground shake like I feel and have felt with them being around that cabin. So I know they're here. I don't question it. A lot of people, you know, they don't want to believe it's real and or they've been kept from the truth, so to speak. You know, because the mainstream media, they really don't want it out there, I don't think. I don't know why, but people need to realize that they're just like anything else in the forest.
So what's the stuff that's happened out here?
Well, what's been interesting is I spent several evenings here, just threw a cot down, it was sleeping bag, and stayed overnight just to, you know, get away from the city and relax for a little bit. And on many occasions, and I'm talking probably, I think it's probably over 3, it's more than likely around 5. But every time I've slept here, I've had some type of interaction, whether or not they pushed a tree down behind this cabin when me and my mother were sitting here right there on the front porch. I have, like I said, been sleeping in there, and I can hear footfall around the cabin. They've woke me up 2 or 3 times at night. One time with a loud whoop. That startled me. But yeah, I can always hear them moving around this cabin, and when I hear them kind of move off, it's always down over that hillside and into that creek. There's a creek down there, and we'll walk along that here in a minute and get a better view of what that looks like. But they, I do believe they come through that creek area, down through here, and that meets up with the other larger creek. They work all down through this whole corridor. But yeah, I've had, and I don't know their age, I have no idea, you know, but it's heavy. You can feel them moving on the ground, because I mean, that you can look at the cabin there, it's only sitting on block, and anytime you feel anything move, you're going to feel it in that cabin. And I can feel it because there's nothing else going on out here. I mean, you can hear the hawks and everything, and the crows. It's pretty desolate.
Yeah, is it like thumps you're hearing?
It's footfall. I mean, you can feel them moving on the ground. They're
just
close.
like a boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom,
boom,
boom.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Does it sound like a helicopter rotor, or like at a
somewhat?
distance?
But the thing is most of the time they're not running. They're walking. Every now and then I'll catch one of them running by real fast, and then it does sound a little bit like a prop off a helicopter. But most of the time you can just hear them boom, boom, boom. And it'll be 2 or 3 steps at a time, and it stops. And I come outside and I never see anything, you know. I just sit here. I've never caught any strange odors or nothing like that.
do they slap the side of the cabin or anything?
They only did that one time. They hit it on the backside, and that was up high. It was on that far side, and but that's the only time they've ever touched the cabin. It was only one time. Most of the time, I've only caught them on this side of the cabin, noise-wise, I should say, on this side of the cabin once or twice. They're always coming up from this direction, from the creek up.
Okay.
That's just the way they work
You
the
think
area.
they're trying to cross the highway, or?
That is interesting. I don't know, but I think more than anything is they're following that creek line, running to the other creek, because it gives them area to traverse the terrain without being seen. Because, I mean, if you go over that ledge right over there, it drops down 35, 40 feet. So they can walk through that whole creek and they're never seen, you know, not at all. I mean, and not even remotely. Unless you're really paying attention, could you ever catch anything, you know, walking through that creek, because it's marshy and, you know, it's always moist down there.
What time of year are you getting the activity?
Early spring.
Early spring?
Early spring it happens a lot, and usually in October and November. I get it like at the change of each season, you know, early spring and through the summer periodically, but most of the time it's early spring, March through late April, and then it'll kick back up like October through early December. You know, that's when I notice that there's something around, you know, a lot of times.
And that shocks me, because I was just out here not too far away yesterday.
Right.
And I've been having a lot of encounters being reported from this exact area, or not exact area, but general location. And none of the people know each other, so that validates people's encounters and experiences that they're reporting.
Right. There's any number of things that, you know, have taken place out here. Like I said, from interactions within the cabin to the howl that we caught, or that I caught on video that morning. It was frightening, to say the least. that got my attention. Because any other time I hadn't had a whole lot of interaction other than like we had discussed earlier with that little bird. You know, I would sit out here and communicate with her because she's got a nest up underneath the porch area up there. And I realized one evening that I was communicating with the bird and it was nighttime. And I know birds don't whistle at night. They don't make any noise.
Was the whistle coming from the window area, or?
No, it was coming off from right over here.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was sitting there and it's been there ever since.
Yeah.
I literally picked it up and set it right back down because that's where I found it.
It's got some crystal to it.
It does. It's pretty. Yeah, there's quartz and everything. There's something here too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's stuck in the ground. Oh, I can get that up, but I can't. It's stuck in there.
You think that's quartz?
It's quartz. Yep, some kind of quartz. But yeah, they work through here all the time. You know. Especially, like I said, the spring and the fall, they're just heavy.
Yeah, we'll have to get out here when it's nice.
When it's nice,
barbecue.
Yeah. Sit here and just take the evening in and see what happens, you know, because there's always something strange going on.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have the parabolic by then, and
yeah, that'd be nice.
Maybe if it starts going off, we can get it out in time and hopefully capture something.
Yeah. But yeah, the property line's up there. You can see the fence line over there. And it runs off that direction, and the cabin is off in that direction.
You say it wasn't like that?
Nope.
It's pretty big though. Yeah, it could have fell that way, but I guess if it didn't, and it was them, it'd be what they call an A-frame structure. You ever blast any calls out here?
No, I never do anything like that. Like that one gentleman that you spoke with, and I think he was in Gasconade. I can't remember, the older gentleman that said, I really don't want to see them.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I mean, I know they're here, but I don't want to encourage, you know, not that I'm worried too terribly about anything bad going on. It's just a simple fact that, you know, I don't know if I could handle it, you know, personally. It's just one of those things that I don't know if I would be able to keep a decent breath pattern, so to speak. You know, each time I've had interactions, my heart just, it feels like it's coming out of my chest. Yeah. Because I know it's something much larger than me. You know, and anything larger than you usually has a tendency to get your attention. You know, that's like anybody standing near a large elephant or anything along those lines. You're a little intimidated because of the size, and I know they're much larger than we are. So I just kind of give them their berth, you know, to go where they want to go, because after all, it is, you know, this is their home more so than, I mean, I own the property, but they don't recognize property lines, you know. Right. All this is their home, so I'm just here occasionally. Yeah. Something that kind of made me a little leery and made me wonder if something wasn't going on is this structure that's right up here in the trees and these cedars. We'll walk up there real quick and have a look at it. And all this area over here, if you see behind me, all those trees, I came out here a year ago and every one of those trees had been shoved over. And there's like 20 or 30 of them just in one area. And my thing is, if there's wind, why aren't any of these other trees damaged? You know, it's right here in the center and it was all pushed down. But we can walk up here and take a look at this. This is really kind of cool. Try to keep our eyes on the ground, see if we can see anything. I've never found tracks out here, but I haven't looked either, so.
That's a lot of damage.
But it almost to me looks like a honeymoon. Okay, that's new. That was not like that the last time I was here. That tree has been shoved over. That's new. because this was the only tree up here that was broke that I knew of. That's brand new over there. But I guess it was sometime the first year I was here, all underneath that tree was matted down. It just had an area that was like there was a walkway underneath it. And all this was here. And there was still some green on the tips of the tree. But I don't know if it was broke. I don't know how it happened. I have no idea.
It's a big pile of cedar.
It is. It's a lot of stuff.
Like I see them break naturally from the snow, but this is a lot.
Yeah, it's large.
Mm-hmm.
And it was broke higher up because there's a whole bunch of, you know, and I mean, I guess it could have been damaged by the wind. I have no idea. But I find it really, really strange. It's something that large.
Yeah, they're all broken at the same height.
All broken at the same height.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really, really weird to me.
Mm-hmm. And this is closer to where you heard that vocalization?
It was off in this direction.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was off through the cedars, off that way across the creek.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about. This whole area right here, all these trees were all just pushed. Even this one was pushed over that direction. That was not like that. This tree, that cedar wasn't like that. All these trees in here had been pushed, and there was like a big pile of brush in the middle there. But now that it's, you know, wintertime, you can't see anything in there. But I mean, that was just all pushed together. Every bit of it was pushed on top of itself. Like these trees over here, they were pushed this way. This one was pushed that way. I mean, there was just all of it laying in on itself. And that, like I said, I don't know how that happened.
What do you think the purpose is, if it's them creating these piles and pushing over the trees?
I honestly think they're probably hunting deer. I'm wondering if a lot of these aren't hunting blinds because they're by the water. And they're right off the road's edge, right down there. Elevation is up there, you know what I mean? Comparable to where we're at, and we're still, what, probably 12 to 15 feet in elevation here before we can get to the creek.
So the cabin's up there, and you believe they use
this creek,
yeah, this
right
creek
here,
to navigate
to the other creek.
Yeah, I mean, from the activity that I've experienced, that's what I noticed. They use the drainage ditches that go to the creeks, and they use the creeks.
Yeah.
Any type of waterway, they'll use it to navigate.
And I think they do that because it's always so much lower because the water's been cutting in for so many years, and it gives them that exclusion where no one can even see their movement, you know, whether it's day or night.
Especially if they get on all fours.
On all fours and stay low, right?
But I noticed the wildlife does that naturally. They use the drainage ditches, little creeks like this, and
well, yeah, why wouldn't you? Because it's easier thoroughfare. You know, it's easier walking. You know, than trying to traverse through this. You know,
and it's got nutrient-rich soil too.
Sure. Yep. And they're always, and like you said, it's a great source of water for them to get a drink and to stay hidden from everything. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's got to be a reason they're coming through here, though. Whether it's mushrooms or something that they're getting from this property.
But you can see how clear it is. You know, it's a nice little creek. Wow, he's right above us.
I guess they kicked the crow's butt.
Yeah.
'Cause you don't hear them anymore.
But there's a spring right up on the other side of that. There's a waterfall too. If we were to follow this creek, there's a waterfall right over here to the left. But the cabin, I don't know if you can even see it on camera, but you could try to view it up there. It's right on top of this hill.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a hard time seeing it a lot of times. But yeah, now if you stand here, come over here, Miguel, and look up there, you can see the top of the cabin right through those trees. That's the very top of it.
Yeah.
So they can get through here without me ever even detecting they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty neat.
It is. It's a pretty place. It's got a lot of character.
I wonder if these rocks have anything to do with it.
You know, I've wondered that many times myself. Because I always find it turned over, you know? And I don't know why that is. this is the neighbor. He's got 5 acres in this little cabin. My property starts right here. That's the cabin in the woods.
Oh, okay.
Over here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So now what we got to do, there's my deer stand. I'm going to redo it.
Freaking watchtower.
Watchtower. Killing field.
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh, this is a nice food plot. Mine's almost this size. I've built about 4 of them the past 2 years. I'm getting there. I'm doing it all by hand though, so it's tough.
Tell me if this ain't gorgeous.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it rolls right down through here. It's the same creek. This is all my property. And it runs back that way. But a lot of times if I'm hunting or whatever, I like to walk that creek because I can get low and I can stay down below the surface, you know what I mean? And I can move quietly. Much like somebody else we know. They hunt the same way. Very end of it, the other coyotes had already stopped. And his howl continued, and then at the end of it, it was wah. That did it. I was like, there's nothing out here that does that. Only Sasquatch. I mean, coyotes don't do that. You know what I mean? There's no way.
Do you think he was aggravated with the coyotes, or?
I don't know if it was that or if he actually smelled me. You know,
he caught your scent.
He caught my scent. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty simple. He easily could have caught my scent, and that's what was aggravating him. You know, he may have smelt me and was coming in to investigate. You know, and then at some point decided, you know, he's right up there, or he located me, so to speak. And then the coyote started sounding off, so he did in kind the same thing. But I can't explain the wah after the howl. That to me, it just baffles the mind. I don't know why he did it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a rare thing for you to be here. So maybe he's used to typically walking through there and not sensing anybody, and this time he's like, well,
wait,
somebody's there.
I smell somebody. Yeah, because I'm out here, you know, on average every couple of months. But sometimes there's times when, you know, hunting season, things like that, I'm in and out of here every week. You know, now I don't make my presence known a whole lot because I don't want to, you know, spook the deer population. But at the same time, I'm still moving through the area, so I know my scents around. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they've got to know that I'm here at that time. And my neighbor that lives up on the hill right over there in his cabin. Matter of fact, you can turn the camera over and see the cabin in the woods. See it over there? That's his cabin, and I'm sure, you know, if you were to talk to him, he's probably has some form of activity too. You know, sure. I asked Chad, and Chad's like, no, I've never heard anything. And I'm like, how? How do you not hear what's going on? And here in a little bit, you know, once the sun goes down, we'll see. Well, I mean, we may get some activity, we may not, but at least we'll be here to find out, you know? And that's half of it. You've got to be in place to find it. You can't sit on your couch and, you know, I know they're out there. No, you don't. Not until you go out there.
Right.
You know?
It's a good day for it.
It is, yeah.
Sunday night Bigfoot.
Sunday night Bigfoot. Sunday.
Oh, it's crows.
But I've jumped does all down through here before because they like to lay up in these thickets right through here and all the way up to the lake. They like laying in here, and that's where these bucks come through. They just filter through here.
Non-stop. That's pretty cool.
I don't know that they come out of here, is what I'm saying, because there is a ton of bones all through here, all the way up to the other end. Even on my property, there's bones that roll underneath this fence after something has been killed up there. I mean, look up there at that tree. All those you see on the ground, every one of those are cow skeletons. I've never seen so many damn cow skeletons in all my life. Last year there was even more. Up here in this corner, look at the house. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they get up in here, I don't know that they come out of here, is what I'm saying. Because there is a ton of bones all through here, all the way up to the other end. Even on my property, there's bones that roll underneath this fence after something has been killed up there. I mean, look up there at that tree. All those you see on the ground, every one of those are cow skeletons. I've never seen so many damn cow skeletons.
Yeah, there's a lot of bones. Strange.
There you go.
You got bones on your side? Yeah.
Right there's the skull.
The water washed that skull down.
Probably.
No, I'm kidding.
Probably.
No, it is kind of weird how they're moving on their own. Yeah, that's a giant fella. Look how big.
Now you see how big the turkeys are.
Yeah, that's a monstrous turkey.
Isn't he?
Fat.
Look at that bone. Yeah, oh, here's another one. Another rib bone.
Yeah, that's strange.
See, they're still up in here, dude, because there's fresh poop right there. So they do come up in here.
But I mean,
the
farmer at the Current River had a boneyard, but he'd move it. It would be at the back of his property, but it wouldn't be like in the open pasture like this. It would be like off in an area like the far back of his property where the cow won't smell it, or they have to eat from. Here it's in the pasture and it's spread across.
It's all over. It's everywhere.
Some voodoo type stuff. There we go.
Cool.
Club stuff.
Bone right underneath you.
Yeah. So this is the boneyard.
This is the boneyard. That's what I call it. And it's scattered.
Coming from a drainage ditch down to that drainage ditch, and it goes straight to your creek.
Yeah.
You think that's where that Sasquatch was headed to?
I think he was on the other side. I think he was up further over on Chad's property, further up the creek. I think he was actually probably moving in this direction.
Because typically coyotes will get active like that when there's a kill around.
Right.
If there's food.
Right. But they sounded off that night, and I mean, it sounded like there was 5 to 10 of them. They were loud. Yeah. And then he did his thing, and I could tell almost immediately. I was like, that doesn't sound like a coyote. But then when it started howling, it's like, okay, yeah, that is a coyote. I've had a lot more activity in Jefferson County than I have here, but I can see that this is probably going to pick up more than likely before it dies off, I would say.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I appreciate you telling me your experiences and bringing me out to your properties.
Yeah, to me, it's heaven. Literally.
I just wanted to touch base with the guy that recorded the cool vocalizations from Missouri, and that's the guy right there.
I feel very fortunate. I really do.
Yeah, but for real, good job. I know there was people in the comments saying you could have at least turned the camera around, but in your case, you weren't thinking about that. You were just trying to get the audio.
I was just trying to get the audio.
Yeah.
To me, I didn't want to make any noise on the gravel driveway.
Yeah.
I wanted to stand there like a statue and literally just take it in.
Do you know how many people say they heard things and people's reaction is always, well, why didn't you record it?
Right.
In this case, you actually got it.
I sprung to my feet because I knew, it's like, I know what that is. Yeah. Instinctively, and I don't know what told me to do that, but something told me that that's what that was. And immediately I went running for the phone to record, because I knew, I was like, that's definitely a Sasquatch. Nothing out here can make that much noise.
Yeah, absolutely
for that
not.
Prolonged period of time. You know, I knew you and I can't holler and scream, and we'd sound like a bunch of idiots, if we did it. But that was definitely the real deal, in my opinion, because it was so prolonged, and it was able to carry it, for such a long period of time. As each time it did it, it baffled my mind, really. I was like, oh my, that is real. I mean, and you could feel it when it first started. It was an emotional experience. It really was. It hit me hard. I was like, wow. That's why I had such a hard time getting in the cabin.
Yeah.
Because my adrenaline. I mean, I was like, I felt like that cartoon character. You know how you see him run in place. That's what I felt like. Like I was running and I wasn't moving. I just felt like everything was like moving in slow motion, and my heart was wanting to come out of my chest. It was exhilarating.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with everyone and let me follow up with you on the story.
I just wanted to get it out there. I want people to know that they're in Missouri, folks.
Yeah,
they're everywhere. So get out in the woods, have fun, experience nature. There's a lot out there that has to offer, you know. Go enjoy yourself.
We ended up staying late after the sun went down to see if we could get any activity to spark up. It was a quiet, cold night around the campfire with no sounds of wildlife other than the distant sounds of dogs barking and cows mooing. This time of year is typically dead with Bigfoot activity, and it is not until the late spring that they begin to make their presence known. Although the Bigfoot are somewhere around, they wait for the best opportunity to interact with humans. Sean and I left apples and peanut butter at both of his properties as a gift to the Bigfoot. This in hopes will get the Sasquatch used to coming up to the property and checking for the gifts. Sean and I believe gifting is also a form of communication between humans and Sasquatch. Almost like a secret Santa, we are so eager to find out what is being gifted despite not knowing what you are even getting. My point being is it shows respect towards both individuals. Their lives are simply so much more different than ours, and they choose to stay away from humans for a reason.